everyone. Here is the review for statistics and probability. I apologize for the lack of entertainment this will be. If there are things you want to pause so you can copy down in notes, please feel free to do so. Otherwise, I'm just going to go through them pretty quickly. So feel free to pause and go back as needed. So starting with statistics, there are three types of distributions that you will need to know. The normal curve is, if you were to fold it in half, it'll line up very nicely. So it looks like that nice bell shape, and it's even on both sides. The positive skew is the tail heads in the positive direction. So it's the tail that determines what type of skew it is. So if you have a tail that comes off to the right, that would be a positive because the tail is heading positive. If the tail is heading negative or to the left, it would be a negative skew. So given that information, looking at these graphs, we have to determine what type of distribution it is. So I want you to imagine if you had a curve right over this, okay? What type of distribution would this be? Okay. So if I were to fold it in half, is it really going to line up? Is it going to be good? It has a little bit extra off to the right here, which would make this a positive skew. It's really close to being normal, but it has a little bit off to the right here, so that's going to make it a positive skew. Okay. Our tail is letting off to the right. It's pretty close to normal, but we have a little bit extra off to the right. This next one, if I were to draw this in, this one's a little bit more obvious. Okay. This time the tail is heading which way? To the right, so this will be, or to the left, in the negative direction, so this is a negative skew. So use those three distributions to decide which type of each graph is. The next big part, and you'll probably want to pause this here, is going over these different types of statistical measurements. Right? Most of these should probably sound familiar to you. Mean is the average. You add them all up, divide by how many there are. Mode is the one that appears the most. Okay, most people get it confused and think that it is the one that is the most. It is the one that appears the most. Median is the middle value, but you must list them in order first. If you get down to the middle and there are two of them in the middle, add, divide by 2. The range is the biggest minus the smallest. Standard deviation, you really don't need to know much about this, but it's how much the values are spread out. There's a high standard deviation, the values are really spread out, they're far apart from each other. Low standard deviation means that they are very close. You really don't need to know that, but you do need to know what that symbol means, because it is going to be part of this formula for z-score, which you do need to know. You need to be able to find the z-score. So a low z-score means that the score is close to the average of the group. High z-score means your score is far away from the class average. You will be given this formula. There will be a tab on your screen that you can click for formulas. You will be given that formula. You will not be told what those symbols mean. So this is what that means. So to find the z-score, you're going to take the score that they give you minus the class average divided by the standard deviation. And they will give you these three parts. You just need to know score minus the mean divided by the standard deviation. So how far apart are you from the average divided by the standard deviation? And that's what you'll need to memorize. Let's use all of that information to find these 5 statistical measures. Okay? So using this information, find the mean. So you're going to add all of these up and divide by how many there are. So if you add them all up, and I typed that in wrong, so let's try again. Should get 288, hopefully. And I'm going to divide by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 values. So the mean or the average is 48. The mode is the one that appears the most. So out of this list, what number appears the most? 45 appears twice. So it would be 45. It is possible to have no mode if they're all listed the same number, or it's possible to have multiple modes. The range is the biggest number minus the smallest, so the biggest number in our list is 64 minus the smallest value, 39. So the range is how far apart they spread, and that would be 25. The median, you have to list them in order from smallest to biggest first. So here we go. 439, 4. Cross these off as we go. 45, 51, and 64. Okay. And so it is the middle. So if I keep going to the middle, I get two 45s. So our answer is 45. If these numbers were different, add them, divide by 2. But since they're both 45, our middle or our median is 45. Here's the question I said you really need to know what this formula means. And again, you'll be given the formula for standard deviation, and you'll be given this information. The mean is 82, the standard deviation is 13. Find the z-score for a score of 88. So the z-score is going to equal x, or your score, so in this case was 88, minus the class average, or 82, divided by the standard deviation, or 13. So figure out how far away are you from the class average, and we are 6 away, divided by the standard deviation. So our z-score is 0.46. Okay. Again, you will be given this formula. They will not tell you what those mean. So make sure you know the score, how far it is from the average, subtract them, divided by the standard deviation. They will give you this information. You just need to plug it in. Let's talk about some scatter plots now. If all of our data is really close together and we can see a nice line, it means that it is a strong correlation and it's heading in the positive direction. So this would be a strong positive. On the opposite side, all of our data is really grouped together. I can really see a nice line here, and it's heading in the negative, so strong negative. Couple others. A weak positive, we can kind of see that they're moving up to the right, but there really isn't a nice line. Here would be a weak negative. They're kind of going up towards the left, not very close together. Moderate negative, they're kind of grouped, not as good as this one, but you can tell that they're going up to the left. You could have a moderate positive as well, and then none. There is absolutely no way you can tell if they're going up to the right or up to the left. So based off of that, decide which type of correlation these two graphs, these two scatter plots have. Okay? Positive, negative, or none. Can we see which way our data is going here? Yeah, we can kind of see that it is all coming up to the right. So is this positive, negative, or none? This would be a positive correlation. And they're not going to ask you, I don't believe, to determine is this weak, strong. All right, so you'll just have to decide positive, negative, or none. How about number 2? Can we tell at all which way our data is going? No. So this would be no correlation. Okay, so you can see the difference. One is going up, and you can kind of see the line. Here, there is none. You can't tell which way it's going.